Hey everyone, we're continuing our devotional series in the Book of Mysteries by Jonathan Cahn. Today we're on day 6, the mystery of the bride. On our journey to the city, we stopped on a nearby hill. "Look," said the teacher, pointing to an event at the city's edge. "It looks like a wedding," I replied, "or the preparation for a wedding." The bride, in a white gown, was standing in a garden with her bridesmaids. "You're watching a cosmic mystery, the shadow of a mystery, existence," he said. "Is a love story, or was meant to be a love story. The bride is a picture of what each were created to be." "I don't understand." "We were each created to be the bride. That's why we can never be complete in ourselves. That's why, deep down, in the center of our being, in the deepest part of our heart, we seek to be filled. For the bride is made to be married, so we can never find our completion until we are joined to Him who is beyond us. And that is why we go through our lives trying to join ourselves. Join ourselves to what? To that which we think will fill the longing of our hearts, to people, success, possessions, achievements, money, comfort, acceptance, beauty, romance, family, power, a movement, a goal, and any multitude of things. For the bride was created to be married, and she can never rest until she is. So none of the other things can work? No. None of the other things are the bridegroom. And who is the bridegroom? The bridegroom is God, the one for whom we were created. So we have to find Him. More than that, he said. A bride doesn't just find the bridegroom. She marries him. So it's not enough to find God. You must marry Him. Marry God? How? By joining every part of your life and being, your deepest parts, your heart, your soul, your wounds, your longings, your desires, everything, to God. Only then can you be complete. Only then can your deepest needs and longings be fulfilled. For the mystery of our hearts is the mystery of the bride, and the bride can only find her completion in the bridegroom, and the bridegroom of our souls is God. The mystery. Put away anything that substitutes for His presence, and join all that you are, your deepest parts, to your bridegroom. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5.
You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might.
Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 1 through 4.
The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. Your anointing oils are fragrant. Your name is oil poured out. Therefore, virgins love you. Draw me after you, let us run. The king has brought me into his chambers. We will exult and rejoice in you. We will extol your love more than wine. Rightly do they love you.
Ephesians chapter 5, verses 28 through 32.
In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does love the church, because we are members of his body. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This mystery is profound, and I am saying that it refers to Christ and the church. Lately I've been reading a book. I'm only on the third part, which is like the 9th chapter or something like that, of Every Man's Marriage by Fred Stoker and Steve something, I forgot. But it's about Fred's life. One thing that really stuck out to me was, now this is for the men, we all love Ephesians 5. It talks about how the wife should submit to you. But we clearly forget the last few parts of that chapter. So Ephesians chapter 5 talks about how our wives need to submit to us. We are the head of the household, right? Whatever we say goes. Final answer, nothing but, right? We seem to forget what we're supposed to do. It says we are to die to ourselves, not literally at all, and barely even figuratively. Let me show you in Ephesians 5, verse 25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Basically, as soon as you get married, you're basically supposed to sacrifice yourself for her. More like taking care of the kid when she's too sleepy. If you're not getting enough sleep, it doesn't matter to you. You gotta protect your wife. If we make her feel impure or dishonored, we have sinned against her. That's Ephesians 5:26. That he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word. Basically, wherever she feels impure or unjust, that's a sin against her if you go on and kind of force her to do that. Most of the time, I don't really have any good explanations of that, or what's the word I'm trying to find? Examples of that. More sexual stuff. So we're not going to get into that. But basically, that's the part that we've been missing out on. We're missing out on that part a lot. And Jesus is the perfect example of all of that. He's given up his life for all of us. We are the church because he sacrificed for us. We're supposed to submit, but he submits to a more spiritual level. He gets down in there deep. He loves us way more than he loves himself, and in turn, he ends up loving himself. Okay, I've already been through that. Okay, Ephesians 5:22 through 24 describes Christ as our perfect groom. Wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, his body, and is himself its Savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit in everything to their husbands. Submit in everything. Yeah. Basically, he wants to be our best friend. Like my wife, she is by far my best friend. I can share anything with her. If we have a problem, we should go to him. We must also do everything they ask because he's also the head of the house, right? He's the head of your relationship. He wants to be our best friend, just share everything with him. So I give you a challenge tonight to read through every man's marriage. Even if you're single, I definitely read it. It's a long read though, but the chapters are very short, very easy to get through. What are your thoughts?
It's pretty good. It's good.
That's what happens when I go through an outline instead of a paragraph.
I really like in this passage that he describes all the things that we try and fill our lives with. We search constantly for something to fill whatever void we have in our heart, whatever hole, whatever will mask pain, fill needs, what have you. Jesus is the only way. He's the only one who fills that void. He's the only one that fills that hole in your life. We're made for him. We're made to have a relationship with him. We are made to be friends with him, communicate with him continuously, turn to him, look to him for guidance, counsel, wisdom, and even then to have conversations with him just about our regular lives. If you're married, you still need him. If you're single, you need him. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter about race, gender. It doesn't matter what denomination of Christianity you're in, whether you're a Christian or not. You still need him. Jesus said specifically, he is the truth, the way, and the life. And without him, we're dead. Dead on the inside. And what do we decide to do? We try and fill that hole with money or power or possessions. There'd be a lot less greed in this world if we all turned to him and fulfilled that part of what we were created for and what we need. And it's simple. Just him. That's it. And everything else comes with. We talked about becoming a Christian a couple days ago and how Cody disagrees that, life doesn't get easier. I agree with Cody, it doesn't. But everything fits perfectly after. Everything comes together, woven like a beautiful tapestry. And your life is profoundly changed. Yeah, everything is difficult in many different ways. Wasn't it to begin with? Hasn't it been this entire time? It just means that you acknowledge that you have someone who's always got your back. Your true best friend who's always there for you. He's just waiting for you to acknowledge his existence, his presence, accept him. Turn to Jesus. He makes everything change in a way that you can't even begin to fathom, but he'll start showing you afterwards. Your life is never going to be the same. None of ours are. You can ask any Christian, when they were born again, when they were saved, their life radically changed in one way or another. Now you're going to have some Christians out there who have a negative standpoint on it, who always stick to the life was easier before I was saved. Was it? Because I really doubt it. Maybe you just ignored how hard it was. I did.
Yep. Yeah. I used to think the same thing too, but until I had my eyes opened, it was a lot harder before I was saved. Because I was worried about the next day, worried about the next relationship. We've talked about all of this before. It was just all this stuff on top of regular life stuff. So on top of the job, on top of the family, the relationships with all these other friends, I had all this internal disaster. With Jesus, he helped me get rid of all that internal disaster. I became at peace with myself instead of at war with myself. And that's what made everything easier. So in a sense, it's still a little bit easier of a life than not having Jesus in it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a, I don't know. Depends on perspective, right? Yeah.
I also want to make something very clear about it too. If your reservations about it, about coming to Christ, about accepting him, or even going to church and seeing what it's like, have been because you look at other Christians or you've known Christians and you're like, oh, well, that's just how it's going to turn out. That's not true. No one story is the same. Everybody has their moment when they accept Jesus. And their lives are different, and their story, their testimonies are all different. It may happen in the same church or in a similar fashion, but it's completely different and unique. So I implore you, take up that courage. It takes 10, 20, 30 seconds and a decision. If you've been on the fence about it, I implore you, get off the fence. Take that stand. Take that leap of faith. Be courageous. Come to the Lord. He loves you. He only wants the best for you. As always, guys, we love you. We're praying. Leave your comments. Subscribe. Leave us a thumbs up, thumbs down. If you like what we're saying, let us know. If you disagree with anything we're saying, we want to hear it too. We're open to answering any and all questions. We are open books. If you want to, rebound some questions at us, if, you're in a negative place and you think this is all a bunch of hooey, we want to hear about it. We want to discuss it with you. We want to see your perspective. We want to understand where you're coming from, and we will have civil conversations about it. We're open to that. We'll be praying.
Cool. See you guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night.